Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Business Spotlight interview. And we've got Sam here, who's in Cyprus. This is the wonderful thing about the global communication network. But Sam's going to tell us about his business, Gather Social. So, Sam, tell us all about it.
Actually, it's quite a good place to start by the fact that I'm actually in Cyprus. My actual other love, one of my big loves in life is travel and the sun. And one of the things that I actually hated about my corporate job was the fact that you always had to fill in a holiday form and it could take forever to get approved. And they wouldn't just let you work from anywhere and do your admin. I was like, I can do my admin anywhere. And one of the big reasons why I set up my own business was to be able to have a bit more control over my holidays, a bit more control over my movements, and actually be able to choose my mental health routine over actually just constantly going to an office, which was one of the big reasons 10 years ago I actually left my job.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
and you've never looked back since.
No, not really. So I set Gather Social up 10 years ago. Uh, I had many different goes at started a business, which all ended up with me back on the dole. And when I set Gather Social up, my mum and dad made me promise that this was my last go, as they didn't want me to do it again, and said I was too old to go back to their house if it fails. So what we do is we're a content marketing agency specializing in social media. It's evolved so much over the years. We just literally were making posts for social media when we first started out. And now we build websites, integrate different pieces of software into websites. We have our own software platform, which is an in-house developed tool, which is a content management and distribution system. We do a whole range of different ads. We specialize in video production and making short form content primarily. So it's drastically changed over the last 10 years. But yeah, that's really what we specialize in. And we're really unique in the sense that we don't have a niche. One of the things that I wanted the business to have was not to have a niche. I didn't want us to be just good at recruitment. I didn't want us to be e-com. I wanted us to be able to offer the full range of digital services to a real broad range of clients in our space, which is why we have such a varied portfolio of customers. And I actually think that keeps it interesting on the day to day. And it really keeps the guys and gals who work here, it just keeps their skills honed. Like their skills are razor sharp for each industry. And it's really fascinating when we spot a trend in one industry, we quite often transfer it to another and see it produce results in that sector. And we're not limited by size. We literally have companies that are 3, 4, 5 employees, up to big companies with hundreds of employees where we operate as a full outsourced marketing department. So we are essentially the marketing department for some quite large businesses.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing that. So, just you talked about, we had a chat beforehand about this particular piece of software you developed. Can you just embellish that, please?
Yeah.
A little bit more.
When I started the company, my business partner at the time was a software developer by background. And, he just, like all of us that start a business, he didn't want a boss. He didn't want to work for himself. So we actually kind of started out life as a software company. And what actually happened was we got a handful of clients under this social media marketing agency guys. And 10 years ago, because it was quite a buzz thing, we were able to pick up quite a lot of customers quite quickly. And maybe 3 or 4 months into being my own boss, running my own business, all I was doing was sitting and scheduling content all day, every day. I used to have to wake up at 5 to get the morning post scheduled, go back to bed, get back up. And I just kept following this routine of scheduling content, at which point I turned to my business partner and said, if we don't do something about this, I'd rather go back to work. This was worse than working. This is soul destroying. And I'm dyslexic. So my brain works in a really bizarre way. It's a linear maths brain. So I've discovered at that point that I can't code, but I can understand somehow by accident, sort of like the linear structure of putting a piece of software together. And I was essentially able to design a piece of software with my developer business partner, which was 3 Google Sheets that all spoke to each other and posted directly to the social media platforms, which in the early days, I was able to go into businesses and essentially sell a Google spreadsheet, which people bought. And over the years, my business partner left. He left quite soon into the venture. So I've had to really become upskilled in like all of the areas of software development. And it's now in its 4th guise, in its 4th different language. It's now written in Meta's own language. It's globally licensed. It's got some international agreements where we can publish into different pieces of software. And fundamentally, it probably saves my business 100 hours per week in scheduling our clients' content, which allows us to actually take that cost out, and that's therefore reflected in our hourly or day rate, as it were, which allows us to be much cheaper than other agencies because we have a piece of software doing all the manual grunt. So it really is like the blind, it's really like the hidden employee at the company. It's like the employee you can't see that does all the rubbish jobs that, let's face it, none of the staff actually want to do. Which also gives us a USP in the talent market, because when they apply for the job with us, one of the very first things they ask about in the interview is the software, because they all hate scheduling content. And it's a relief when they realize that they don't have to do it and they can therefore be creative 100% of the time.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm sure several people will want to actually talk to you about it. So, you said I had a corporate job, got fed up with that, actually started several businesses, went back on the dole, did this, and now you've obviously got this wonderful gem. So, what's been the biggest learning through that journey?
Don't listen to everybody else. Be your own person. Failure is the root to all success. Love learning to fail. No is the second best answer you can hear because you're very close to a yes. And really, I think probably the biggest thing that I've learned along the way is that most people project their own fears for themselves onto you and give you the advice that they want to hear, not the advice that you need or want to hear. So you're therefore best not seeking advice from people that aren't either living or doing what you want to do or achieving what you want to achieve, because you just get bad advice. That's literally it. And I feel like along the way, what I've learned is, especially with friends and family, is that most people feel great if they think that they're here and they think that you're there and they feel comfortable with that. And then it's interesting that when their perception of you goes up here and theirs is down there, how quickly they will change their demeanor towards you. And I think that's been probably the hardest lesson that I've had to learn. I found that to be, I found the point where other people thought the business was successful and them trying to come back into my life for favors and whatever. I found that to be the hardest lesson that I've had to actually learn. And that's not just exclusive to friends, that's family and everybody really. And I think that's just part of the course of being an entrepreneur.
That's a really fascinating share again, and thank you for being so open with that one. It's lots of learnings there for people. So what do you actually attribute your growth to?
So obviously the business has gone through a weird period in time because we were about during COVID. So we've been around 10 years. What do I attribute the business success to? It's funny because you look back on it now, and in 10 years of working in your business, you're having to really go back and undo all the bad habits that you've got yourself into from having a business, which is a difficult journey to go on, because when you reflect on the things that you probably need to stop doing, those are the things that made you successful. So when things were challenging, my mentor suggested one day that I could stop, and I said that they'd have to come and physically carry me out of the office for me to stop. So that kind of never say die attitude, I think, is what all really hard entrepreneurs need to have. But it was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, working till midnight, the little things, you know, grinding it out, learning new skills, developing myself. The small things really. But then I think the biggest decision that we made that's really put the business where it is today was we really hit fast growth about 9 months before COVID. Like, we really couldn't cope at that point. We were growing so fast. So we had 4 or 5 new starters. We were going really, really well. March 2020 was looking like our best month ever on record at the history of the company. And ultimately, COVID struck. We lost 85% of our revenue in a week because everybody cancelled the contracts. And the single best decision I made, which is the only reason the business is still here today, is I told every single customer I wasn't going to let them cancel their contract, that we would work for free. And I didn't furlough anybody. I told all the staff that we could afford to keep them on. We were going to work for everybody for free because our customers needed us right now. And this gesture of goodwill would carry us far when they came back round to paying their first invoice when cash flow returned. And we recovered our position within 5 weeks of COVID striking, and we were back in growth within 8. And we picked up so much work because people were trying to find a marketing agency that were open and hadn't furloughed all of the staff. And the only company in Nottingham in that situation was Gather Social.
Brilliant. What a fantastic, fantastic story. Love that. So, absolutely brilliant. So what do you see as the challenges going forward for the business?
Good question. The digital landscape, it is getting harder to no, it's not getting, it's getting more competitive with more bits. So 10 years ago, Facebook was for kids. Fast forward to today, the general consensus of business owners is that Facebook is for adults, Instagram is for show-offs, and TikTok is for kids. So it's evolved that quickly, really. I mean, Instagram wasn't even a thing when I started the business. TikTok wasn't even a thing when I started the business. So really, the biggest challenge is keeping abreast of all of the trends and making sure that I've got the talent within the business to execute on it in the cost-effective manner that we're able to deliver on all of the other services that we provide for our customers. Yeah, that really is our challenge. So right now, integration of AI. Like, how do we integrate AI effectively into the business where it makes us more efficient, delivers better results, and we're not just dealing with customers that just say, oh, can't AI do that? I think that's the biggest challenge that we're facing at the moment. Can't AI just do that? You're like, no, it doesn't work like that.
So why doesn't it work like that?
It's early stages, AI. It's picks and shovels stages, as I like to call it. It's kind of like, and as other commentators like to call it, it's very, very early. You really need to be looking for bits of software that can save you time and increase efficiency. So, for example, 9 months ago, everyone was in a frenzy on ChatGPT, downloading blogs, getting rid of the marketing department. We don't need a marketing department. ChatGPT is here. It's going to writes 700 blogs a day. And that was very short-sighted because Google just released an update that was wiped out all AI content and it ranking in Google. So we're now actually back to the point where we need humans using AI to write the blogs to hit Google's criteria. And they're releasing another update in a couple of weeks that's going to further tighten that free-for-all around just uploading AI content. Likewise with the videos, deep fakes, all of it, it's going to have a moment in time. It's going to have its use, but we're just all kind of figuring out what that is right now. And I think for our agency, we had an email this week. where we're having to try and explain why different databases and the way that they're sourced and the costs are reflective of how useless they are. It's like if something costs £1,800 using AI or £80 using AI, there is a massive difference in what is still being produced. And because it's so new, people just don't understand it. People just don't understand it. They get ChatGPT to tell them what to have for dinner, and they think it can actually run their marketing. And then when you go onto social media, due to the way that it is, you've just got all these gurus telling you how to hyperscale using AI, and they're selling you a course. And I often think to myself, if they'd hyperscaled, why are they not sat on a beach? Why are they selling me a course at $9.99? It can't be that great if it's only worth $9.99. So I just feel like there's so much misinformation online, and that does get to customers, which then leads them asking really painfully bad questions, and you trying to not humiliate them with an answer where you're like, you're completely wrong. Here's why. And then they go, yeah, but this influencer on Instagram, and it's like, but we don't know this person. Like, they've just showed you a screen that they mocked up in Canva. There's no way of proving anything that they've actually said. So I think that's a big, that I know across all other agencies that we're friendly with, that we all have the same challenge when it comes to AI.
Brilliant. What a great share again. So this is a good one for everybody. How do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, I haven't done very well at it. In the last 3 years, I've had to make an effort. Actually, it's probably the last 5 years I've made an effort. So the first 50% of the business journey, there was no balance. It was all out work, no holidays, work Boxing Day, Easter Sunday, just worked every day. I think there was one period when I had 10 days off in 2 years, which is no balance at all. However, I feel like that's the sacrifice that you have to make for a period of time to maybe get to where you want to go. And then when I hired my first person, my accountant told me that I could afford a gym membership now. And my first luxury was to go back to the gym. And very quickly from there, I started to go to the gym on lunch times, half an hour here, half an hour there. And then maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I made the decision that I needed to put my health first and then schedule my work around my health. So I'm now really big into yoga. I do probably 12 yoga classes a week. They go into my diary on a Monday morning when I book the classes. Everyone in the business can see them. I go at lunch times, I go in the evening, sometimes I go in the morning, and then I fit everything else in and around that. So that comes first, and then work is a very, very close second to that now. But I've took the philosophy is that gather social won't be very good if I'm dead. So I've tried to put that balance back in. But I don't think there'll be a business person or an entrepreneur that you'll speak to it would say that there was full balance from the get-go. I think the excitement of it gets you carried away. Like the first customer, the second customer, like the first year, like you've not gone bust yet. You're still here. Like when you've been 2 years and you're still broke, but somehow the lights in your house are still on and you're still eating beans. I don't know, I took motivation in that really. And I've had to work hard on the life balance. And even today, it's a challenge because I love work. I love working. I love what I do. I look at it as in the sense that I'm from a really working class mining background. We didn't have a great deal of opportunities where I was growing up. Like, for example, my careers advisor advised I was too common to go to university, which I quickly explained that I didn't require her services any longer. So it was a challenging upbringing. I think you're a product of your own environment. So when I was a teenager, I thought really I had 4 options in life. I thought I'd be a professional footballer, so number 9 for Forest, a gangster, a fireman, or a business owner. So every morning when I get up, I remind myself I'm actually living my childhood dream of running my own business, and therefore need to remain grateful for that. And that's why it's hard to get balance, because I'm actually living in a dream. And there's something really nice. There's something really nice to be said about that. There's not many people that actually ever get to experience that. And when we onboard new staff, I tell them, I say, this was once my childhood dream, and you're now working in it. So please just love it for everything that it is.
Brilliant. I'm leading on from that, and finally, the last question: what's the best advice to an 18-year-old you?
It'll work out better than you think it's going to. Keep going. Don't listen to other people. And if I could go back to my 18-year-old self, I would explain to him the concept of time.
Brilliant.
You sort of think, when you set up a business, I'm going to have a Ferrari in 6 months. 10 years later, I still don't own a Ferrari. I never will. The concept of time, you have so much time. Like, you can fail and start again, fail and start again. Like, time is only but what you imagine it to be. And if you invest your time wisely and steer out of the pub, steer out of bad habits, you really can grow as a person. I would also tell my 18-year-old self to invest in therapy, as I did do, but maybe go a bit earlier.
Brilliant. Sam, that was fascinating. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Take care.